Hi everyone, welcome to week 7 of English 1302. There were some technical issues with the video I posted yesterday, so I'm just doing a brief fill-in until I get a chance to get up to the office, figure out what went wrong, and then I'll reopen the original one for you, and then you'll have 2. Alright, so this week's a pretty light week. We only have the 2 short stories, A and P by John Updike, and The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. I also want to point out the fact that your second research paper is coming up. I think that's the Sunday before spring break, and then your second quiz is next week, next Thursday. Anyway, back to the 2 short stories. A and P, nice little clean-cut coming-of-age story. Sammy, the cashier, works in a supermarket called the A and P. And he's having a normal day. He's very unhappy with his job. In walks these 3 girls wearing nothing but bathing suits. The setting of this story is a small town, very conservative, very traditional, in a supermarket in the 1960s. The 1960s were an age of cultural upheaval, lots of cultural changes going on, sexual revolution, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all of that sort of thing. But these girls walk in. They're not wearing anything except bathing suits, no shoes, no cover-up, no nothing. They pick up a jar of fancy herring snacks. Herrings are like a little fish. And it gives Sammy a chance to kind of fantasize about her life, her being Queenie, the lead girl, and his life. He sees her life being very elegant, very upscale, very rich. His life being very trailer park trash. So when the girls get ready to check out, the store manager Lingle sees that they're not wearing very much, and he says, "Girls, this isn't the beach." Doesn't come down real hard, just kind of points out that, hey, you're not really dressed appropriately, which they weren't. And then Sammy, in a surprise move, in an effort to impress these girls, says, "I quit." The girls keep walking. If they hurt him at all, they completely ignore him. Sammy takes off his bow tie and his apron, and he follows them out, hoping to get their number, and they're gone. But the story ends with Sammy looking around, seeing the empty parking lot, and he says his stomach kind of fell, and he realized how hard life was going to be to him hereafter. First person narrator. It's a nice little story. Got a clear-cut protagonist in Sammy. The antagonist would be Lingle, plus the culture itself, plus Sammy's own immaturity. It's called a coming-of-age story because he realizes, he has this epiphany, he realizes that, hey, life is going to change. Before this, if you read the story carefully, you know that his parents got him the job. His mother fixes his lunches and irons his shirts, and he's living at home, and he's had it pretty easy. And after this major decision, life's going to be different. Life's going to be a lot harder for him, and he's going to have to grow up and become much more mature. You could use feminist theory, since the girls represent nothing other than sex objects. You could use, historical criticism if we had time to go into the life of John Updike. He did have an interesting life. Reader response, of course, is always a useful tool there, but I would stick with feminist theory for this one. The next one, though, is very interesting, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. There really is no clear protagonist unless you insert yourself into the story. And notice it tells the story of a utopia, a perfect place where there's no crime, there's no pollution, everyone's in perfect health, experiences full joy, the architecture, the science, everything is just wonderful, with one tiny exception. That is the fact that they have a boy, a small boy, 9 or 10 years old, although he looks 5 or 6 because he's so badly treated and malnourished. He's locked in a closet in one of the big fancy buildings, a mop closet where he's scared of the mops. And everyone in town knows about this boy, but they can't help him. They can't take care of him. They can't give him clothes. They can't even say a nice word to him because the entire thing would crumble, would just fall apart within an hour if anyone tried to help this boy. They all know, and I don't know if it's instinctive or someone has told them or this is taught in their schools, But they all know that in order for their perfect society to function, in order for their perfect society to exist, the boy has to be tortured. He has to be there locked in the mop closet. And most of them are willing to put up with that. A few of them, though, some of the younger people who see him for the first time, some of the older people who've had a couple of years to think about it, they realize they can't put up with it and they leave. They walk and then they keep walking. They walk through the middle of town and they just keep going. Why? Well, one theory, my theory, is that they are so touched by the plight of this small boy that they would rather leave this perfect place, this idyllic setting, and go live someplace where, even though there's much more suffering, any place you go, there's going to be more suffering than just this. This is very, very small amount of suffering, really. Anywhere else you go, there's going to be more suffering, but any other place you can help. They're going to go to some place where they can feed the hungry, clothe the naked, tend the sick, visit the prisoners, do all those kind of things that their conscience calls them to do. Ursula K. Le Guin, the author, is famous for her science fiction short stories and novels, and really interesting. Your research paper number 2, you need to read that short story, Barn Burning. Now, it's a fairly complex story, but read the story and then pick one element of formalism, probably something like setting or protagonist. Barn Burning is another coming-of-age story. Sardi, Colonel Sartorius Snopes is his full name. He's just much younger, but he grows up at the end of the story when he turns his father in and then runs off and keeps running. A lot of running in these stories. Anyway, go to the internet, go to google.com/scholar, and look up the title of your short story, Barn Burning by William Faulkner, and type in setting or protagonist or irony or any one of those that you think might be interesting, and look and see what the published experts have said. Now remember, one of the things you're graded on is, of course, source evaluation. How carefully did you pick out the best sources? You want to evaluate your sources on authority, depth, timeliness, and citation. And if you use Google Scholar as your search engine, it'll do a pretty good job. At least it'll tell you who the author is, how many citations it has, when it was published, and the length, which is what we call depth. Anyway, that's a quick overview of the much longer video, and I'm going to try to get this posted up real quick. If you have any questions, drop me an email.